So without further ado, I have to say from this aspect itself, it is a great honor for me to please welcome our New South Wales Premier, the Honourable Dominic Perrottet.
That was all done in English, Cantonese and Mandarin. I'll stick to English and see how we go. Can I thank you for tonight and to recognise the work that you do to celebrate 36 years. 36 years is a big anniversary for the Australian Chinese Daily. But can I just reiterate at the start the points that Keith made and the thank yous that he made, because the media played a very important role, particularly over the last couple of years in the pandemic, in providing information to the public that was essential in ensuring that we got through one of the most difficult times in our country in the last 100 years. And the media played an important role in that. But to Keith's point as well, as he's quite rightly pointed out, it was also the community groups, and each of you here today that also played a role. And it's one of the great things about our country is that in the most difficult and challenging times, people come together to look after each other. And that's what each of you did during that period of time. So can I join Keith in thanking all of you, not just from a media perspective, but from a community organisation perspective in everything that you've done over the last few years, as you continue to do, to look after people right across the community here in New South Wales. So please put a round of applause together for yourselves. I want to acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues. Keith's mentioned them all who are here. Obviously Mark Perrottet, the Minister for Multiculturalism, but from both sides of politics, Liberal and Labor, we have members and candidates who are here tonight, and that's an indication of the support that you have in the New South Wales Parliament from across the political divide, and that unites us as a Parliament together. Can I say that the Australian Chinese Daily is more than just a newspaper. For 36 years, it has been a bridge between two cultures, a voice for diversity and a voice for harmony. And importantly, a source of vital information and understanding, especially as I've said earlier, in a time of crisis that we face over this difficult time. I've always believed that our nation's identity, Australia's identity, is defined by three great strands. Our First Nations people, our British heritage, and our multicultural community, all coming together as one. And when it comes together in strength, our nation is so much better off as a result. And I believe that our country and the state of New South Wales is always at its best when all these three strands are strong and united. Your work contributes to that unity in an incredibly important way. And for that, can I say, on behalf of not just the members of Parliament and candidates who are here tonight, but on behalf of the people of New South Wales, we are truly grateful. Every day across our state, members of the Australian Chinese communities make a valuable contribution to this incredibly important project of building a brighter future for the people of New South Wales. And that is something that my government will always support. I mentioned him earlier, but I wanted to give a big shout out to the Minister for Multiculturalism, Mark Perrottet, because in his role, look, I'm busy, but Mark's probably the second busiest minister in the New South Wales government. Every single night, he's out there leading the government's efforts to promote harmony in our society. Importantly, fighting racism, increasing cultural awareness, and making sure the vital services that governments provide are accessible to everyone, especially in circumstances where language is a barrier. We are proud, my team, to lead a state where great festivals that are so important to the Australian Chinese community, Lunar New Year, the Mid-Autumn Festival, the Dragon Boat Race, are now institutions. Those events, they've become institutions on the New South Wales cultural calendar. But the most important thing my government can do right now for all the families, students and businesses in our Australian Chinese communities and for everyone in New South Wales is to provide the support that they need to navigate what we are seeing as difficult and challenging economic times. We understand that families and businesses of New South Wales need certainty to be able to plan for the future with confidence. And that's why we're reducing pressure on household budgets with energy rebates, back to school vouchers, toll relief and many other savings, which are all accessible through Service New South Wales. It's why as a government, in the next term of government, we have committed to no new taxes, to give businesses the certainty that they need to invest in the future. Lower taxes provides greater opportunity and funds that our small businesses can invest in capital, can invest in employing more people. And that's why, as a Liberal, we believe in lower taxes, less red tape and less regulation to allow our small businesses across our state to flourish and to prosper. Now, this support is also there to get through the current challenges that we're facing. Yes, we've gone through a difficult time over the last 4 years, but there are headwinds on the way. And as a state, we need to be looking forward to the opportunities that lie ahead. So my government has a long-term plan to keep the New South Wales economy moving forward. And I want every member of the Australian Chinese community part of our state's success. And that's why we're investing $116 billion, the biggest infrastructure building program, not just in the country, but arguably anywhere in the world. And that lays the foundation for motorways, for metros, for schools, and for hospitals. We're investing in world-class education and the future-focused industries that will continue to power the New South Wales economy forward, securing not just success for everybody in history, but ultimately why are we here as a society is to make sure that our children and their children have greater opportunity and prosperity than we do. And that's why we are here, to invest and build in our economy here in New South Wales, as well as creating opportunities for our international economic partners as well. So if we look to the future, I believe it is very clear that the most important trading relationship we have in this country will continue to be with China. And that is a relationship that my government, over the time we've been in office, has worked very hard to strengthen. And tonight I can announce another very important step. To supercharge international arrivals across our state, the New South Wales Liberals and Nationals will partner with China-based airlines to deliver more than 394,000 additional inbound seats to Sydney from China this year. It will inject more than $447 million into the New South Wales economy and will no doubt connect many members of our Australian Chinese community with families, friends and opportunities to travel, study and work. And can I say, during the pandemic in my previous role as Treasurer, I learned firsthand the importance of the New South Wales Chinese relationship, particularly in respect to study, in relation to international students, and the opportunity that provides not just young people from China to come and study at the best universities, I believe, anywhere in the world, but ultimately to help drive the New South Wales economy. And that connection needs to continue to grow from strength to strength. And Keith raised that in his speech in relation to the pandemic and the importance of opening up borders. And once those borders are open, that connection between our university sector, and it will only grow from strength to strength. And I think this announcement today will make a real difference in that regard. So this is just one part of our long-term economic plan here in New South Wales, but I'm more confident, despite the challenges that we've had as a state, as a nation, across the world over the last 4 years, that the best of our state is yet to come, and that is because of our great people. And when I cross the state, from place and community right across New South Wales, from metropolitan Sydney to regional New South Wales, what I see is a great people who have given of themselves in the most difficult circumstances. We've worked with each other in difficult times to ensure that as a people, we have come through these challenges together in a very resilient way. So despite the economic challenges ahead, I know that our community right across New South Wales will continue to prosper over the next number of years. And for that, I want to say, as I said at the outset, I want to thank not just Keith and the team here in the media, but also each of you here tonight. Because what binds our great multicultural community together is that sense of spirit of service, of selflessness, of looking out for each other, and that is what we celebrate this evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you for sharing all that. And it's great information, great update that we can definitely share with the community itself, with the new flights and the new plans that you have had. Thank you. And I represent the communities that we are here. Thanking you again. For weekend itself, we do have, and we need you here to provide some clarity, and we do have some questions from the community. Excuse bear with me. First one we have is actually about Chinatown. Chinatown itself, since the COVID, it hasn't been the same, right? It has really been affected, and as well as the city, I guess. That's not just a Chinatown, but a city itself. So from that aspect itself, being a staple for the Chinese community and our culture is now being a bit of disarray. What plans do you have to revive Chinatown and businesses?
Well, Keith, it's a great question. If you look across the state, one of the areas that has had the biggest hit economically, financially, has been the city of Sydney. And in my previous role as Treasurer during that period of time, we held a number of summits in the city to make sure we work with the council to drive activity back, to cut red tape, to cut regulation, and encourage people to come back to work. And I believe that is something that's happening around the world right now. Whilst there's been a bit of difficulties in relation to encouraging people back into the city and the CBD and Chinatown, one thing that I believe we have done so well is put a number of events on in partnership with the City of Sydney Council. I'll be the first to say we haven't always seen eye-to-eye, Grace here. We haven't always seen eye-to-eye on a number of things. But in difficult times, we work together to drive activity back into the city. And as the work year kicks off, we're seeing that momentum come back. I do believe we're seeing a lot more activity in the City of Sydney, in Chinatown, and recently, much more than we've had in the past. We've got our museum, our Australian Chinese Museum that we're establishing in Haymarket, over $2 million investment. But we have to keep going, we have to keep making sure that the city doesn't just thrive Monday to Friday, that we actually have a thriving 24-hour city. Now, there are members on the council, not Craig of course, there are members on the council who believe that Sydney should be a suburban city. No, we're a global city. And if we're going to compete with the greatest global cities in the world, we need to be a 24-hour city. And I am completely committed to achieving that end. To cutting regulation, to ensure we have a 24-hour nightlife economy that ensures that not just on Monday to Friday that people come into town, but on Saturday and Sunday, we don't have tumbleweed rolling down Chinatown or Martin Place. We have people, food, culture, and colour, and that's exactly what we're going to deliver.
Thank you. Completely agree. You mentioned in the speech before about infrastructure, building on toll roads and highways as such. From that aspect itself, the main concern right now, of course, is how the economy is coming with inflation. Cost of living has gone up, so definitely toll charges is something that people will definitely want to support, needless to say. So when that happens, all of a sudden, Parramatta Road, Victoria Road, gets chock-a-block, right? How can we then help the families, the motorists that are actually doing this hard slog day-to-day life to help them move ahead in regards to maybe toll relief?
Well, okay, it's a great question. And what I encourage people here tonight, we know one of the biggest challenges we have right now in a higher inflationary environment with interest rates rising, rents rising, there are significant challenges for families right across our city and right across our state. Now, through Service New South Wales, we have more cost of living relief than anywhere else in the country. Over $7 billion in support. With our toll relief package, it's 40% relief from tolls. Our energy rebate is $250 for every household across New South Wales. Our back to school vouchers, mums and dads across our city and state love them. The feedback I get in terms of helping parents get their kids back to school on those costs of uniforms and school shoes, and you know, for me with 7 kids, that's pretty difficult. But also our active kids rebates, our cultural, creative kids rebates, getting young kids into extracurricular activities. I don't want any child in New South Wales to be impacted by the challenges that we face today. So I want to encourage people tonight to log onto the Service New South Wales website or attend a Service New South Wales Centre and see what is available for you and for your families to help with the cost of living pressures that we have. Now, in relation to toll roads, I'll be a bit political and I'll make this point. The Labor Party opposed the WestConnex. Keith, in your question you said tolls are a challenge at a time when cost of living is rising, and that puts pressure on other roads like Parramatta Road. Well, could you imagine Sydney today without the WestConnex? There are 270,000 daily trips on the WestConnex. So Labor opposed that. Could you imagine if that road wasn't built and we had 270,000 more people every day driving down Parramatta Road? What a car park that would be. So I accept as Premier there are challenges, but we can't stop building. We have to sit there and make sure that our children and their children have greater opportunity and prosperity than we have, and that means building the infrastructure, the motorways and the metros that make a real difference to people's lives. And if there are challenges, people can't afford the tolls, well, guess what? Parramatta Road now is faster because of WestConnex. So it's a balance of both. We're doing that, but I encourage people today, my job as Premier is to ensure that we deal with the issues that we have in the short term, the cost of living pressures and making families make ends meet, but at the same time, making sure we set up our children for financial security in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for that, because it leads perfectly to my next question from the community. It is well-known fact that the Chinese Asian community greatly invest our wealth in real estate. There's no hiding there. You just believe in it, right? And a lot of that is around metro areas. Currently, with the housing crisis in itself, these metro areas have low FSR, and therefore, when they try to move towards the council and get approval for high-rise or anything essentially bigger projects, it has been declined. But we do see infrastructure moving out west, northwest, southwest, for example. So some of them are concerned saying the infrastructure that's already been built is around the eastern side, for example, Great Metro, why is it that we are not building around the cities in this?
Well, a couple of things on that. Firstly, you build around transport hubs. So where we have transport, that's the most obvious place for new housing development to occur. That's exactly what we've done in Sydney. Take Northwest Sydney, where I'm from, as we built the Northwest Metro, a project that was promised for decades, delivered under our government. You now have greater density around those hubs because that makes sense. Less cars on the road, homes being built around public transport. But ultimately as well, we are growing as a city, and our Six Cities vision, but particularly around Western Sydney, and building the metros that will make a real difference to people's lives, doesn't just provide better public transport options, but ultimately as well, it provides greater housing options in addition to that. And that's why, as part of our $3 billion housing package, we've got a significant investment in accelerated infrastructure, that's the ancillary infrastructure, to make sure housing goes in. We announced just 2 weeks ago another $250 million for that, for another additional 140,000 homes. But ultimately, you need to build with the character and the harmony of the communities that exist. And at the same time, where there is greater opportunities, particularly in Western Sydney, you need to build the public infrastructure that ensures that developers will come in and ultimately build the homes that we need to house our children. And that's why, not only are we coming and build the Northwest Metro, we're building the $18.5 billion Metro City and Southwest. We're building the Metro West that will open in 2030. We're building the Airport Metro that will open in 2026. I was down just at Central train station the other day, underground, as this new Metro comes to life. It is going to change public transport for the next generation. And what that also delivers is opportunities for housing to come off the back of it. There's that great saying, build it and they will come. And that's why I'm committed as a government to continue to build the infrastructure, the biggest infrastructure agenda anywhere in this country's history, right here in this state. Because if we build the public transport, we're actually not just building a road or building a metro, we are building opportunity and we are building prosperity for our children. And that's what I'm focused on.
Thank you, thank you. 不好意思，今晚就不直接就在这边做翻译，可是之后呢，我们当然会从我们报纸里面呢会做这些答案出来，谢谢大家。Just to say a bit of that, please. To something more serious as well as a bit heavy. It's about the Chinese and the Asians have been in Australia for over 200 years, 4 or 5 generations, I have to say, and in New South Wales, being the most diverse and the most culturally diverse state in Australia in itself, we are very successful in that sense. But definitely throughout this time, we have faced challenges, and for physical, mental, and emotional, that a lot of Asians still feel discriminated against. The question is, how could the government improve the safety aspect of it? Because from all these stress and pressures that I've had in the last few years, and with COVID on top of that, I mean, domestic violence happened, mental issues happened. So we have, and with the healthcare that we have currently, with the healthcare sectors that we have here, and the seniors, for example, and Women Network and everyone else, we really do care. And how can we protect the community from discrimination?
Okay, it's a great question. I mean, the first thing I'd say is, I think we're incredibly blessed to live in this country where, yes, there are issues that come up every day, but ultimately, as a people, we live in one of the most harmonious, multicultural countries anywhere in the world. And I think that is something that we should be incredibly proud of as a community. Yes, there will be issues, but if we focus on the negative, we can sometimes lose sight of the great harmonious culture that we have here in our state and in our country. Now that doesn't mean there aren't challenges, and that's why from a multicultural position, and Mark Perrottet works tirelessly on this, that we continue to invest in things like festivals that aren't just for the cultural communities, they're actually for everybody across the state to grow in appreciation, to grow in understanding, to actually embrace diversity and realise that difference is something that is not a negative. Difference is something that can bring us together in a respectful and celebrated way. And I think we as a state and as a country have come such a long way in that space. In relation to mental health and healthcare, I would say you're right. I mean, there has been a significant impact over the course of the pandemic. But our health system in New South Wales remains incredibly strong. We work very closely through the National Cabinet with all state governments about reforming the health system, getting better integration between the primary care health system and the public health system. That's the number one issue, I believe, facing the country today, and I stand here from a position of strength here in New South Wales with the strongest health system anywhere in the country, hands down, which we have. But that does not mean it's not without its challenges. We'll continue to invest record amounts to do that, but also look at better ways of doing it. It's not just about putting more money in, it's about doing things in a better way. And if we take on difficult issues like pharmacy reforms, I know there are different views in relation to that, on really driving urgent care clinics and making sure we get greater access for healthcare to people in their communities where and when they need it, ultimately what that does is ensure that people are able to access the best healthcare possible in a way that suits them and their families. And that's something we're completely driven to do. And as you say, following the pandemic, which has really heightened the challenge, there's no better time to take on those difficult areas of reform which have been too challenging in the past.
Thank you, thank you. I guess we have time for one more, and I'm just going to do as much as I can here. And one of the biggest concerns, I think, is about employment. All right, and thank you. It's such a great news. I think part of the answer to the question was answered with the extra flights that are coming in. But from that aspect itself, how a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs that are in here right now are facing a very difficult challenge in regards to labor shortage and getting the right people in place. So from that aspect itself, they are also thinking a few things, quite a loaded question here. This shortage of labor, then as they train new people here, English students, for example, how can they keep them instead of having them go regional, for example? And also, are they able to maybe sponsor them? Because this touches onto nurses, teachers, and other industries as well.
Well, that's a great question, Keith. And the first thing I'd say is, and I keep starting with positive, and that is that we have probably close to the lowest unemployment rate in our state's history. And that is a good thing. If you want a job in New South Wales, you can get a job. The downside, as you quite rightly point out, is if you go from industry to industry at the moment, the biggest challenge we're facing across the country is labour shortages. Now, we work very closely with the federal government in relation to clearing the backlog that's occurred from having our international borders closed during the pandemic. And in credit to the federal government, they have worked to ensure that that backlog is removed. But every leader of every state and territory has provided a list of those areas where those shortages exist. But from my perspective as New South Wales Premier, what I've asked the federal government to do, which they agreed to at National Cabinet, was to look at ways in which we can improve permanency in relation to visas as well. So that gives greater confidence to people overseas who want to come and work in Australia and potentially set up their life and bring their family. There is greater certainty in relation to having their arrangements more permanent. And my view is by working through that, that we will be able to deal with those shortages. Look, I think this is a short-term challenge. I don't think this is a long-term issue. I think over the next 12 to 18 months, we will actually, with the opening of international borders, that we will actually see momentum come back. And the challenges and shortages that we're seeing in health and education, construction, but as you say as well, even in hospitality, where they rely immensely on international students to work in their businesses, will begin to return. And I'm seeing that firsthand from my discussions with the university sector, who I work very closely with, as I said, during the pandemic. The momentum is returning, students are returning, and that will deal with a lot of the challenges that we're facing today. Now, that doesn't take away from the immediate issue, but I have a strong sense of confidence in the future in relation to dealing with those shortages and working together as a country through the National Cabinet. I believe that we will achieve that end.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you very much for your time. I have received some invitation, so from that aspect itself, allow me to say that it is with great honor again that the Premier is with us tonight, because it does show that you do care for the Chinese and Asian communities here, and that's why you're here to share with us your policies as well as first-hand great news that's happening as it happened tonight. So thank you very much. Allow me to say that in Chinese. 简单来说的话，就是说谢谢州长能出现，当然就是说除了参加晚宴以外呢，也就是为了重视我们华社，而在这边的话呢，会跟我们提出他的建议建设，还有在这里呢跟我们说是最新的消息，就是加了航班，而会帮助接近40万的那个机舱位，然后把学生都可以把他们带回来这里澳洲，所以谢谢大家 ，Thank you to the Premier，Thank you. story, and so definitely it's on the right. So thank you very much again for coming. Thank you.